Right then, as I'm up and awake, let's have a chat about Fury Usyk. As I'm in hospital, I've got no microphone pack or nothing, so apologies for the poor light and the poor sound quality. When I watched this on the night, as I was watching, it was quite late on. I had a day full of pain relief. On the night, it very much seemed like there was a few debatable rounds between 1 and 3, and then it sort of seemed like from 3 till 8 was all Fury, and from then on, with the exception I think of 11, was all Usyk. And I remember sending a message to Joe Stunner at sort of 4 or 5 point, saying that Fury giving him a battering. And if it continues like this, he will give him a systematic battering, because that's what it looked like. At the time, it appeared that way. And then about a round later, after I'd sent that message to Joe, it became very apparent that although he had a really good spell, sort of between 3 and 7 or 3 and 8, as good as he looked during that spell, and I think quite a few of those rounds, although I think there was more, when I watched the second time around, there were more swing rounds than I thought there was on the first viewing, but there was certainly a 3 or 4 round period for me where Fury seemed to be having it all his own way. But not long into that period, it became evident to me that Fury was, to look that good and to look that dominant, he was having to work at such a high output and such a high pace that it wasn't long before I feared that he's not going to be able to sustain this pace. Fury will not be able to keep that pace up for the duration, and that was my worry, and it kind of ended up that way. By the time, and when we talked a lot about Fury's weight coming into this, and what sort of camp he'd had, the extended camp he'd had, the wake up call against Ngannou. Now, I made a video saying that the Ngannou fight was possibly the very best thing that could happen to Fury prior to an Usyk fight, because it was a massive wake up call, and he now may not believe that he is that much better than everyone else. He just has to turn up to win. So I was under the full impression that Fury would have had the best camp possible. And when you look at his weight, that would kind of indicate that. As a lot of people said, Fury didn't look physically strong, but I've never really seen, Fury's never had a physique that's looked physically strong. But the fact that even though he was disguising it with the playing and the showboating, and the theatrics, it was still evident that it was evident to me that it was a pace that he was not comfortable with, and that kind of suggested to me that his fitness is probably not where it should have been, and I expected it to be better than that, especially with the extended training camp. You'd have thought he would have been really, really, really peak. Now, it's weird because if we talk about Fury being shot or on a massive decline, what didn't show that was the fact that for 3 or 4 rounds, Fury managed to time Alexander Usyk brilliantly. I mean, absolutely brilliantly. I've never seen Usyk hit that easily by anyone for that period of time, in the way that Fury did. There was one sort of jab. There was one jab that he threw, and he disguised the jab and turned it into a uppercut. And as Usyk weaved to the way he thought was going to avoid the punch, he weaved right into the uppercut. So that was a really top draw piece of technical skill by Fury. So it wasn't that he looked rusty at all, was it? Because his timing was good, his own movement was decent, but you just thought, has he put it in the cardio sense? Because you looked at him and thought, you're gonna blow, and you're gonna blow soon. And then when you got to 9, I think the fact that he couldn't continue that pace anymore, which means he couldn't keep Usyk away and guessing anymore, meant that Usyk was getting closer and closer and closer to the point where he threw that, was it that right hand that seemed like the nose went, and then it seemed like he had a complete circle underneath one eye. And the other thing about Fury that I've never seen before, and one of the other indications where you kind of think possibly time to Fury to hang it up, is the fact that from round 9 on, when he started getting seriously hurt, I've never seen Fury pull or have the involuntary sort of facial spasms and these really odd facial expressions in reaction to punches. It was really quite bizarre and something I've never really seen before. It really looked quite, when you saw some of the slow-mos and the replays, it really looked quite odd. The way that his face was contorting and just his reaction to punches. And round 9, and I know that at the time people were saying the referee got that wrong, but no, the referee got that right. The ropes were holding him up, so you can administer a standing 8 count for that if it's only the ropes or the corner to be holding him up. I've seen fights stopped for less than that, for less of a beating and a barrage than he took there. And from that point on, it was like Fury was 2 different fighters, wasn't he? There was the pre-hurt Fury and the post-hurt Fury, and unfortunately for Fury, he got hurt at the time, round about the time that his tank was round about empty. So for me, he never really, and that's the other thing. Fury always, if he gets dropped, he recovers really quickly and gets up. If he gets hit with 1 or 2 punches, he's out of the way and aware enough to not get hit by the 3rd and the 4th. This was not the case in this on any of the occasions. And Usyk, you just have to look at and his output. And I think for me as well, that looked like the hardest we've seen Usyk punch. The effect that those punches were having. That was one of the things that going in, I didn't really see Usyk having enough power to trouble Fury from just a power point of view, but he did. In the end, he did have enough power to do that. Usyk was tremendous, wasn't he? Usyk was hurt a few times, sort of up until around sort of 7, 8. He was clearly hurt. Usyk disguises it very well, being a true professional. He is disguises it really well. But his recovery is fantastic, and when you look at his fitness levels, because we talk about, and Beterbiev does this as well. Usyk makes you expend energy while not even being that overtly offensive because of the angles that he presents and the different looks and the different angles and the movement. He doesn't even really have to be throwing punches for his movements and his looks and his angles to make you feel that there are A, opportunities, or that B, you need to work at a rate to combat his, even though he's not throwing a lot. This is what Usyk does really well. He'll pressure almost without pressure for the first half of the fight. And even though he's pressuring you, he'll pressure you without necessarily throwing punches, which will lead his opponent into feeling that, okay, I'm being pressured, but I'm not getting hurt and I'm landing my own shots. And in the meantime, Usyk's not getting damaged by those shots. Usyk's tank is getting stronger and his opponent is getting weaker, even though his opponent might believe he's actually winning the fight. This is where Usyk, and I think Beterbiev do the same, and it's genius. And unless you completely disengage from what they want you to do, you will fall foul of it. But Usyk's fitness was tremendous. His heart was tremendous. His chin was tremendous. What more can you say? I think that fight was as good a fight as it was because both guys, Fury for 4 or 5 rounds looked some of the best Fury I'd seen, possibly ever. But Usyk was the superb generational talent, true fighting man. And he got hit to the body. Fury hit him well to the body and didn't. Yeah, he was hurt to the body a few times. You can see that, but never looked like going down to the body. So there was really no weakness to Usyk's game, was there? Absolutely fantastic performance. And I must say also, because stylistically this fight could have been a stinker to a degree, and it never was. It never was. This was as good as a undisputed heavyweight title fight I could have possibly asked for. So, yeah, absolutely superb. As to a rematch, now, I find it hard to see a rematch going any other way because you do have to look at it and say, well, look, Usyk took everything Fury had to give and never really looked close. to folding under that, and Fury looked badly hurt. And I think a lot of the thing with the cards is that the fact that the parts of the fight that Fury won, he won them in a fairly spectacular fashion, in the sense that he was given all the movement, he was given the tricks and the playing to the crowd, and he was landing on Usyk at will. But when Usyk had the momentum and the initiative, you had one guy beating the shit out of the other, essentially. And I think that's why, because I do think there was 4 or 5 rounds in there that could have been swing rounds. So I didn't really have any particular problem with the scoring. But if we just look at it as a fight, you had one guy who came out, tried his best, had his way for a little while, landed his shots, didn't really trouble the other guy. And then when the other guy landed his shots, he beat the shit out of the other guy. And if we're looking at that as a fight, there's only one winner in that fight. So I think a lot of people think it was a wider points win for Usyk, just because the rounds that Usyk were winning, he was winning them in a spectacularly destructive, brutal manner, where the rounds Fury won weren't in such a quite brutal manner. So the ones that stick in the mind the most are the brutal ones, the ones where one guy is beating the other guy up, essentially. But yeah, this is an unplanned video. This is just some of my thoughts from after this fight. So when I get home and have access to more stuff, I have access to my internet, my TV, and all those sort of things, we'll do a prop one of those. But I thought, as I've done a little video on Derek Chisora, I thought, let's have a sit down with you guys and we'll have a little discussion of Fury Usyk. Yeah, I don't know where Fury goes. Do you? Do you see a return being any different? Was Fury's camp not great because his fitness didn't look up where it should be for the type of preparation you should have done for a fight of this magnitude? But we will see. Anyway, that was just a little chat about that. I'll see you guys soon.